Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Russell Hill, host of WTF, and that is What the FixedOPS. I'm joined today by...
I'm Charity Dunning, co-host here of What the FixedOPS, and today we have Glenn Lundy, the founder of 800% Elite Automotive Club.
That's right. Yes. Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Glenn Lundy.
Big
yeah,
welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So tell us, for those who don't know, the 800% Elite Automotive Club, what is it about and what do you do?
Yeah, so 800 Elite Auto, basically we work with, it's training and consulting. We work with owners and general managers of car dealerships all over North America to help them scale their volume, their profitability, the employee retention, and the overall culture in their dealership.
Yeah, listen, when I was talking to Charity and I started talking about Glenn Lundy, because I get up at the crack of dawn, and this
Must be nice to sleep in like that, Russell.
Yeah, right. No, I get up at your time, except an hour earlier. But I make sure that I'm ready to go at 4:30 when you get on. That's really important to me. It's part of my ritual in the morning. Stack of books over here. I read our stories, some of which hopefully you'll elaborate on a little bit, from being homeless to drugs, alcohol, suicide, a turning point, the crossroad, whatever it was, where, a light went off, said, enough of this, things have got to change. And you took a different path, and you keep stepping out, you keep stepping out and stepping out and getting outside your comfort zone. All those things you talk to are things that I believe in, pouring into your people. We have about 20 employees now in my company. And nice. They're the most amazing people, or team of people. This is my third company that I've ever assembled. And it's amazing. Now, we were talking just a minute ago, and I was pouring into Charity because we wouldn't be where we're at without her. I mean, her ingenuity, her talents. She does things very well that I don't do very well. So she keeps me on track, makes sure I'm lined up. You're familiar with some of that, aren't you, Glenn?
Oh my gosh, dude. Like, what a turning point in my life when I realized, I don't know everything and I'm not the best at everything. And as a matter of fact, I'm better when I find people that are the best and let them do the things. So I've got a team now of 12 people here for our company. And, I stay in my lane and they're in their lane. And it's amazing what you can build when you have amazing people in their zone of genius. It's incredible.
Absolutely. So about a year and a half ago, a little longer than that, a guy that by the name of Damon Lester reached out to me, and he invited me into Clubhouse. And that's when I found Glenn Lundy. Now, I think that we have a really large following, and I think most really half of them probably know really who you are and what you stand for, and the things that are important in your life and other people. And then the other half know the name, and some may not even know the name. So we're going to introduce Glenn Lundy to everybody that we know in automotive, because we've been in this automotive space for a long time. And something recently just happened. I'd like for you to share with everybody, which you did this morning. What happened last Wednesday, Glenn Lundy?
Yeah, last Wednesday.
Come on, man, bring it.
Last Wednesday, I spoke at Grant Cardone's 10X Growth Con, and it was a competition style. It's called the Great American Speak Off, and originally 27,000 people entered, and it came down to the final four of us live in Las Vegas, Nevada at the MGM Grand, and I got to speak on the stage, and I don't know how it happened, but I won the whole thing, man. I won the whole thing. It was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. So yeah, that was last Wednesday, man. I'm still riding that wave. It's pretty incredible.
Well, you're a testimony, and I would love to get and I feel like we probably will. Since I'm here in the Dallas area, I'm gonna be at your thing in April in Dallas, the BWC. Nice. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But I got to tell you, some of the past things that have happened to me, and I got an automotive in 1985, but all my life, Glenn, people said, Russell, you can't do that. I tried that. That won't work. and they got interrupted by somebody who just did, because I stopped listening to all those people a little over 28 years ago when I had a pivotal moment in my life, similar to yours. But Charity, I think you have a question about Breakfast of Champions, etc. Why don't you ask Glenn?
Yeah. Well, to piggyback off of what Russell just said, some people know exactly who you are and what you do. Some people recognize the name. I'm one of those people that recognizes the name and recognizes your name because I'm on social media a lot, but I don't know really anything about Rise and Grind, Breakfast of Champions, and all of those things. Do you think you could tell us what it's all about?
Yeah. So do you guys remember when Colin Kaepernick took a knee?
Yes.
Yes.
And everyone in America lost their minds?
Yep.
Yes.
Remember that?
Completely. I mean, lost it.
Completely lost their minds.
Right.
Oh my gosh, man. Well, at that time when that happened, I was the general manager of a dealership in Paris, Kentucky. It was a Chevy Buick dealership, and we had grown that dealership 800% in the prior 6 years. So we went from being a store that was selling about 120 cars a month to a store that was averaging about 850 cars a month.
Wow.
With our best month being just over 1,000 cars in March of 2018. And so I was the GM of that store at the time, and we had made a massive impact in our community, a massive impact in the industry. Things were great. Colin Kaepernick takes a knee and America goes crazy. And I'm in social media, which I used a lot to really promote and recruit in the automotive space, as well as to help us with our sales. And so I'm seeing people go nuts, like on both sides of this thing. And it's so ugly and people are so hateful. And it was just such division. It was tearing everybody apart and it was driving me nuts. And so at some point in my life, I don't remember where, but someone gave me a little piece of wisdom that said, if something's really bothering you, not like just kind of bothers you and you put it over on the shelf, but like if something's really bothering you, that's God's way of saying, hey, you're supposed to do something about it, right? So I'm like, well, what can I do about America being torn apart, especially on social media? And I didn't have an answer for that. And I said, well, actually, there's probably nothing I can do about that. But what I can do is I can create a little tiny space on the internet that I can hang out in, that is a safe space, that there will be no politics, no agendas, no division, a place where everybody gets a seat at the table, a place that's filled with nothing but motivation, education, and inspiration. And so in January of 2018, I went live for the first time at 5. I chose 5:30 a.m. because at the time I had 6 kids back then. I don't know. I have 8 kids now, so it's hard to keep track. But at the time I had kids and I had to get to work at a certain time and so on and so forth. And so 5:30 a.m. was the only time I knew I could consistently show up, right? And nothing was getting it in the way. And so I went live at 5:30 a.m. With no clue what I was going to do. I had woke up at like 4 minutes before then and the lights were on my face and I was in a utility closet upstairs so I didn't wake up my kids. And I had a halo light and a laptop. That's all I had. And I went live for the first time. Fast forward, now I've done 1,146 episodes as of this morning. Going live at 5:30 a.m. Monday through Friday for the last 4.5 years. That show, or that what just started off as just me going live, turned into a global movement. It was originally called #Rise and Grind was the name of the show. And we raised over $1 million for charities. We brought people together. We had live events. I started speaking on stages all over the world. I ended up leaving the retail side of automotive and built my own business, which is what you see here, 800% Elite Automotive Club. Fast forward, this new platform came out called Clubhouse. So we launched my show. We took it over to Clubhouse as well as Facebook and YouTube, but then we expanded it into a full-on network that goes from 5 a.m. till 1 o'clock in the afternoon with motivation, education, and inspiration. I collaborated with 60 other people so that we're on there 6 days a week for, I guess that's 8 hours a day.
Yep.
you know, and you know, now I'm the #1 speaker in the world, by the way. I don't know if you guys heard, but I won this
Yeah,
competition.
say it again. Lundy, #1 speaker in the world.
And so, yeah, so that's the history of kind of the morning show and the trajectory that it's changed my life. But it all started with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. The world was divisive. I wanted to create a safe space where people didn't have to deal with any of that crap, and neither did I. And just following the, you know, God's call, this is where we've landed. It's been crazy.
We are passionate about helping consumers find a great, trusted place to get their car fixed. We have 4 million uniques who come to our website each month for car repair information, and we help them find our REPAIRPAL certified locations. We also have amazing partners like USAA that offer our REPAIRPAL certified network to their customers and members. So how are we going to help dealers? Well, dealers sell 100% of the cars, but over time, after the warranty expires, the repairs go up and the revenue potential goes up, but people keep leaving the dealer over time after the warranty. By years 10 or 12, only about 20% of people are still servicing at the dealer. Why is that? There's one dominant reason, and that is price perception. And being REPAIRPAL certified helps you overcome the primary price perception problem. So come let us show you how REPAIRPAL can help you too.
Well, without you even saying it, I got to tell you, I mean, for the last 28 years, when I had a turning point in my life, I was listening to all the wrong people, drugs, alcohol. I mean, prison, you name it, it's all happened. Underdog. I listened to it's amazing. 95% of the population gets their information from the same 95% of the population, and they wonder why they don't have any more. Because it's all about. So people say, Russell, how do you? It's the things that you've overcome, the things you've overcome, Glenn. You have to step outside your comfort zone. It doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes being uncomfortable, stepping out, being disciplined. And I got to tell you, the Breakfast of Champions in the morning, is it not the #1 morning show in the world as well?
So Breakfast of Champions, definitely the #1 show on that platform, you know, as far as, you know, on Clubhouse goes. And
Yep.
That's been one of the cool things about Clubhouse is it really did get us a global reach. Most of your social media platforms are geography based, right? So if you've got a United States zip code on Facebook, you're going to see primarily United States stuff. And you know, same with all the other platforms, but Clubhouse was global. So now we started connecting with people in China and people in Russia and people in Finland and, you know, Europe and all over the world. And so, yeah, it's really helped us expand that aspect. And we're continuing to build on that with that goal of being the #1 morning show in the world. We've got some competition in that space, but I think we can take them out. Give me more. Give me some time. Give me some time.
Yeah, that's all it is. You many years ago, how it started with me after I got clean and learned what a life of sobriety was like, and allowing God into my life and what that meant to have a relationship with him. My mentor, life coach, wherever you want to call him, he said, Russell, are you willing to do the things that other people are not willing to do so that you can have and become the things that most people will never have and never become? What are you willing to do? You know, and he said, we're going to start off like this, because he was a multi-millionaire. I tapped him on the shoulder, asked him if I could take him to lunch, and asked him how he got started and if he would work with me. And he said he would, as long as I was willing to get really uncomfortable. There was nothing in it for him. It was all about helping me step way outside of my comfort zone. And he gave me a book, Dale Carnegie, on how to win friends and influence people, and the discipline of just reading 15 minutes a day. And he said, if you'll do that, I'll continue to work with you. And then in 1 year, your life will transform. It wasn't a year, Glenn. And it started off a trajectory of consuming and reading. And I started making a lot of changes, and people would look at me and say, are you an idiot? Like this company here, I started it when I was 60 years old. It's only 3 years old and we're just exploding. What do you mean starting a company at 60? It's never too late. It's never too late. Whatever it is you want, you can go out there and get it. But people say, well, what's the key ingredients? There's only 3. Because I believe I'm a sum total of everything I've ever seen, heard, and read and done up until this moment. And if I want to affect any kind of change tomorrow, it starts today. Day 1, like you say, starts today. And it's all a matter of what you read, who you listen to, and who you associate with. And that's been an important part of my recipe. Would you say that's an important part of your recipe?
Yeah, it's integral, man, right? You've got to, I think Denzel Washington, in my experience, said it best. He said, you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're bound to get a haircut. And that's just the reality, right? The people that you hang around with, we're adaptive creatures. So we are going to adapt into those environments. And so now that we have access to everyone and all information, we can truly choose. It doesn't matter how you grew up. It doesn't matter your financial status. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your cultural background. You now have an opportunity to surround yourself with legends and giants 24/7 through books, through who you talk to, through who you associate with. You don't have to know them face to face
Nope.
to be able to gather the wisdom that we now have accessible. And so, yeah, completely changing my circles and changing the inputs absolutely changed the output.
It darn sure does. And you can't wait. You
So-
can't wait till tomorrow or the next day. Go ahead, Charity.
Yeah. Well, it's just something you said triggered a question for me. So I'm sure you have that rags to riches story that might be slightly different, but so far I've heard you say that sort of that victimhood played a role in your life. I'm this color, I'm too poor, or, whatever it may be. So how do you think you've changed your thinking from that sort of victimhood mentality to get to where you are today and be around the people that really are positive influence to you today?
Great question.
Yeah, so I know the moment that it happened actually. So I was homeless in San Diego, California, for a short period of time, and homelessness. Most people think the worst part of homelessness is that you don't have a roof over your head, or a place to lay down, or money in your pocket. But really, the worst part of homelessness is you become invisible. So no one will make eye contact with you when you're homeless, right? They'll look above you, below you, to the left of you, to the right of you, but they'll never look directly at you. Maybe they're afraid you're going to mug them. They're afraid you're going to ask them for money, make them feel some sort of shame, whatever. I get it, but it's an awful feeling, and no one ever says your name, right? And so homelessness became hopelessness for me, and hopelessness became depression, deep depression, and that depression became suicidal thoughts. And then ultimately, I decided to take my own life in the Pacific Ocean, just off the coast of La Jolla, California.
What happened in that moment?
So in that moment, once I made that decision, I was really comfortable with that decision. And I'm not a very good swimmer. I'm very stereotypical, but I'm not a very good swimmer at all. And so I decided I would just swim out as far as possible until my arms were fatigued, and then I would drown. And so I went out and I swam out as far as I possibly could, and experienced some crazy things. It's like this moment of panic as the waves are splashing all over my face, my arms are fatigued. And then all of a sudden, this moment of calm, like I was totally comfortable with this being the last breath that I took. And as my head went underwater for what I thought was the last time, my feet hit the ground, and I all of a sudden popped up, and I looked around. Well, the tide was coming in as I was trying to swim out, and I was such a terrible swimmer that the tide had pushed me back onto the shore. And so I rolled up onto the shore, and I'm laying there and I'm looking up at the stars, and all of a sudden I'm realizing how big the universe is and how small my problems actually are. And that's when I heard the words, you take yourself wherever you go. Now,
Wow.
I had a mentor who had told me that before when I was young, but I had no idea what the heck he was talking about.
Sure.
But in this moment, I finally realized, because I flashed through all of my experiences, and I had lived in all kinds of different cities. I'd been around all kinds of different people. I had worked all kinds of different jobs, but the result kept being the same. And so I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm the only constant in all of this. I've been blaming everyone else for every bad thing that's happened in my life, but the reality is I was the only constant. So it opened my eyes. I was like, oh, wait a minute. If I'm the catalyst of all things negative in my life, does that mean I can be the catalyst for positive things in my life? And that set me on a journey of self-discovery. I wanted to figure out, why do we have this ability to create? Like, where does that come from? And so I had to understand more who I was, which sent me down a path of spiritual understanding. And ultimately, I studied Scientology, I studied Buddhism, I studied Catholicism, I studied all these different things, and then ultimately found my spiritual understanding of self through the story of Jesus Christ and Christianity. And ever since then, I've, like, literally from that moment, shed any idea that anyone on the outside has any control over my destiny or my results, that I am not a victim in this life, that I am actually the catalyst of all the results. And so that was the moment for me. Charity was right then, when I realized I'm the only constant. It can't be everyone else's fault. It must be this guy.
Wow. Yeah. The short stories you share and the things you talk about in the morning, some of them, they just hit me really hard. I get real emotional. It's not just me. It's a lot of other people. And I've sent links to people and invites to people, and that are now showing up as well. And it's overwhelming, the responses when they share with me, about what they heard in your message. Sometimes it's a little bit different, but it's really all the same. It's about looking inward and realizing that you really can't control people, places, and things. All you can actually control is how you act and react to
Right.
people, places, and things. But that surrender, giving up, and realizing that it's not anybody else's fault anymore. And everywhere you go, there you are. That's pretty revealing, isn't it?
It really is. And it's not even, it's even further than that, Russell, right? Like, not only can we control how we react to things, I've learned that we have the ability to create in all of these environments, right? So you mentioned a book earlier. You mentioned How to Win Friends and Influence People. And
Mhm.
I read that book probably anywhere from 3 to 5 times a year, depending on certain events in my life. So if I know I'm getting ready to go meet someone that I feel a certain connection with, someone of influence, someone who's very successful, a billionaire like Tom Benson, the owner of the Saints, or somebody like Grant Cardone, who's become a good friend of mine. When I know I'm going to be in those situations, I read that book. I read that book so that I can intentionally go into that room with a refresher that I'm going to become the most interesting person in the room by asking people about them. I'm going to ask them questions about themselves and the things that they care about. By shutting my mouth and opening my ears and being the best listener, I'm going to become the most fascinating person in the room. Now, two people can go to the same party and experience that completely differently, right? Or go to the same conference and experience it completely differently, because it's all about that intention. So I believe it's not only how we react, but it's also how we prepare going into an environment to create a certain result. And to me, that's where the real power exists.
Wow.
So can I ask you, I mean, walking into the ocean to end your life, homeless in San Diego, how did you, once you got through the realization that, you're going to go in a different direction, what was the first step that you took? Like, I mean, that was
Yeah,
a
sure.
staircase, I'm sure, to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
What were the first couple steps for you?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, so the very next day, I was walking on the beach, the exact same beach that I've walked on 1,000 times. And there was a woman there that was handing out Dianetics books. Now, this woman that was handing out Dianetics books had been there. They've been going to that beach for years and handing out books. But for some reason, I'd never seen her before until the
Imagine
next
that.
day,
Yeah.
when all of a sudden now I opened my eyes and I could see, right? The mud had been cleared from my eyes. And so she handed me this Dianetics books. Now, Dianetics is written by L. Ron Hubbard, who is the founder of Scientology. And ultimately, it's the study of the conscious and the subconscious mind. She then said, "Come with me." And she took me to the Orange County Church of Scientology. The Orange County Church of Scientology, I watched this video and so on and so forth about subconscious mind, so on and so forth. I took an IQ test. They realized my IQ was pretty high. They actually offered me a job on the spot.
Wow.
right there at the Orange County Church of Scientology. And then there was a woman who was a member of the church, and she offered me a place to stay with a bunch of other people that they had pulled off the streets to give up. So it was like 12 of us sleeping on the floor in sleeping bags in this woman's house, and most of us ended up working at the org. So that was like step one. Was I started reading this book and learning about the subconscious mind. I took some classes there at the church on communication, on understanding the traumas from childhood, so on and so forth. I took all these courses, and about 4 months in, I took this course where they started talking about a thetan. And the word thetan is their word for soul, what we would call the soul. And up to that point, I was atheist. I was like total Darwinistic mindset. And now all of a sudden, Scientology was saying that we're three-part, that we're not just mind and body. I'm like, wait a minute, I've been arguing this for 28 years. Like, this is crazy. And so it opened my eyes to this idea that we may be spiritual beings. That's when my spiritual journey began. I ultimately decided the Scientology thing wasn't the best thing for me. To each their own, but it didn't fit for me. And that's when I started walking with Jesus, and I've been growing and developing ever since.
It's amazing. Yeah, we're sometimes.
So step one, open a book.
That's right. Yeah.
One.
And we are spiritual beings. I like to think having a human experience instead of human beings that occasionally have a spiritual experience.
Sure.
Did you also do drugs and alcohol, drink alcohol and do drugs, all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah. I was in and out of that world. Luckily for me, I've always had the ability to turn those things on and off, right? Like, it was never addiction level that I've seen that I've had some close friends and family members like experience, right? But there were seasons, there were seasons where, it was women and cocaine was the jam for for a lot of years. And when I was drinking, you could call it socially, but it was heavily.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't drinking every day, but when I drank, I made up for the days I missed, right? and so yeah, those things were a big part of my life for a very long time. Those aspects, recreational drug use and heavy drinking.
There was a time when you were in automotive, if you could share a little bit about that, which it's fascinating and intriguing, where it was time to go. It was time for you to step way outside your comfort zone. And I don't even think, if I remember, you didn't even have a clear path. It was time. You were being led somewhere else. Could you share a little bit about that, Glenn?
Yeah, dude. Apparently I lost my mind, Russell. I don't know what the heck was going on, man. I completely lost my mind. Yeah, I was, it was October of 2018. And so I was the general manager at the dealership, making incredible money. We were second largest used car franchise dealership in the country. Wow. I had an amazing mentor. The owner of the dealership had become my best friend. He had taught me so much over the years. And then after being with them for 8 years, I took my first vacation. I took 9 days off of work straight. And we had an event called Hustle and Grind Con, which was an automotive event. And so I spoke at that event, and Eric Thomas was at that event. And Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip hop preacher, he said something on the stage that really hit me. He said, you think you're doing something because you're putting food on the table, because you're feeding your family, because you're providing for your wife and your kids. You think you're doing something? That's what you're supposed to do. That ain't doing nothing. You're doing something when you can put food on 100 people's tables and affect 100 people's wives and kids. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. All right. I see you, E.T.
Makes sense. Right.
Yeah. I'm like, I see you, E.T. Maybe there is more I could be doing. So then I came home and I spent 3 days with my wife and kids, just off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then that following weekend, I went to a men's Christian leadership conference at my church. And at that conference, the pastor was talking about Jesus is not the flannel graph Jesus that we taught you learned in Sunday school. Jesus was a warrior who went out into the field and fought for people's souls. He didn't just sit at the house and say, come to me. He went out. So this was my experience over 9 days. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm being challenged spiritually, right? And so I went back to work that Monday, fired up and ready to just crush it in the dealership. And I did the morning meeting. And right after the morning meeting, the other owner, not my best friend, not my mentor, the other owner pulls me into his office. It was like 9:30 a.m. Monday. And he says, Glenn, I don't like you.
What?
Now, this is after I'd been with him for 8 years. We'd grown 800%. Now,
Glenn,
I know
I don't like you.
Yeah, he said, I don't like you. Now, here's what he meant. What he meant is, I don't like you going to conferences. I don't like you speaking on stages. I don't like you having a morning show. And I definitely don't like going to church on Sunday and everybody saying that Glenn saved our dealership when my name's on the building. That's what he meant to say. But what he said was, I don't like you. And everything he said after that sounded just like this. Like Charlie Brown. I have no idea what he said, because I all of a sudden went into this space. And again, I say heard, just like I heard on the beach. It's not audible heard, but I heard. Here's what I heard. Glenn, you can stay right here for the next 10 years and everything will be amazing. You'll have the white picket fence. Your wife and kids will be taken care of. You'll make great money. It'll be awesome. Or quit right now and let's see how far we can go.
Wow.
And so when he got done talking, I don't know what he said. When he got done talking, I said, and it was crazy because I was completely at peace. I said, sir, thank you so much for the last 8 years. It's been absolutely incredible. I believe this season is over. And his jaw hit the ground. Like he freaked out. What? Yeah. You're quitting? Like he wasn't expecting that at all. No. And neither was I. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with these people. Like they had given me when I started at that dealership, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And now my life was amazing. I thought I'd be there forever. So he kind of did his thing, and ultimately he was like, so that's it? Like, you don't have anything else to say? I'm like, bro, I'm so grateful. Like, I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I love you guys. But it's time. And so I left. I went home. My wife hadn't expected to, she didn't expect to see me for like 4 more months because I had just taken 10 days off of work. Right. And,
right.
And I pull into the garage. Now, keep in mind, my wife is pregnant with our 7th child. She's 9.5 months pregnant, like ready to pop any second. And I walk in. She's in the garage grabbing an L8. She's, big old belly sticking out and like waddling around. And she's like, what are you doing here?
Uh-oh.
And I said, honey, I quit my job. And Charity, I swear, I've never seen my wife smile so big. She
really?
Smiled.
Good for her.
She smiled ear to ear. And what I hadn't realized is I had been putting so much pressure on my wife, working 70-hour work weeks while she's raising these babies. She's homeschooling the kids. And she never complained. She never told me to get home early. She never once. She was so grateful for our life that she never complained. But when I told her I quit, that's when the walls kind of came down and she was relieved. Wow. And I had no idea what we were going to do or where we were going. But since
did you anticipate something different in that moment, or you told her that was it?
Yeah, that was it. Like, I just didn't know. As a matter of fact, I quit. And then the other owner called me and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I quit. He's like, dude, take the day. Like, we'll talk about this tomorrow. I went to the church. I prayed for a few hours. I felt good about the decision. I stuck with the decision. And that was on Monday. And on Tuesday, I told my wife, and this is when people really thought I was crazy. On Tuesday, I said, hey, honey, NADA is happening out in Vegas right now. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I probably need to be in the environment with car people. Like, I just need to get in the room to see what God's plan is, because I have no idea what the plan is. And so here it is. My wife's 9.5 months pregnant. I quit my job and I run off to Vegas.
Makes sense, right? Seems pretty natural for a car guy, right?
Yeah, we've been stair-stepping it from there, and now we have, we've built a multi-million-dollar company, and we've got 12 employees. We're serving 190 dealerships across the country and up in Canada, and I'm the greatest speaker in the world. By the way, I don't know if you guys knew, but last Wednesday I won this thing, and I'm the greatest speaker in the world.
Say it again, Glenn. Say it again. Number one speaker in the world, Glenn Lundy.
That's right. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah,
Crazy.
it is. So many years ago, because I spent a long time in the car business working my way up. I met this guy, you probably know him, named Zig Ziglar.
Oh, yeah.
And this is with my first company. I had a CRM company, and I was in a store one day, and next thing I know, because I live in the Dallas area, they said, "Hey, would you like to, Glenn has a devotional every Monday morning." Not Glenn, excuse me. Zig has a devotional Glenn. Every Monday morning in his office with his employees. Would you like to lead a devotional with Zig Ziglar? I said, "Oh my God, yes, absolutely." It was amazing. And I realized even back then that I really ascribe, and to this day with my whole heart, if you help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. And my son asked me, he said, "Dad," early on, he's in the car business too. He wasn't a pasture greener guy. He's been at one store for now 7 years, which is amazing. But he said, years ago, he said, "Dad," because he had some of the struggles that I did early on. Now he's a marathon runner, fixing to run the Boston Marathon in April. He said, "Dad, how do you make the decisions that you make? Because you always seem to make the right decisions." And I said, "Well, thank you very much, son, but that's not true." But he said, "Well, how do you know if you're making the right decision?" Because he was really going through some rough times. I said, "Well, most decisions you make involve other people. Everything involves people. There's tremendous responsibility. You're hung by the tongue, life and death are created with the tongue, etc." But he said, if other people benefit and you benefit, it's usually the right decision. If you benefit at the expense of other people, it's usually the wrong decision. And you just reap what you sow. It's a universal law. You really do. What are your thoughts about that kind of stuff? Because you are all, and Cherry and I were talking about, well, should we talk to Glenn about some of the things that I've been sharing with her the last few weeks or last month, trying to get you on here? And he said, he's always talking about this stuff. I said, "Charity, that's what the guy lives for. This is what he does. He pours into people. This is the year of ask. So I ask, and here you are." I mean, I don't know how many other things could be going on. And it's like, you're here on our show, or this is the year. Yes. Shonda Rhimes, right? The book.
That's right.
And it's like, but this is what Glenn does. This is who Glenn is. Networking, lifting other people up, pouring into other people. And it's almost like the number one thing next to breathing air is people want to know that they count, that they matter, that they make a difference, that they're part of something bigger and they're not on some island all alone, separate, because we are all in this together. That is who Glenn Lundy is. Do I got that right?
Yeah, you do, man. And spending a season of my life invisible has caused me to truly value being seen, right? I value being seen, and I understand how important that is to other people to feel seen, heard, and significant. And so I go out of my way intentionally to make sure people feel seen, heard, and significant, right? When I first started my show, it was interesting. I was just a few months into the show, and every episode of my show, I take some time to say people's names that are watching the show. I'm like, "Good morning, Russell. Good morning, Charity. Good morning, good morning," right? And
it's powerful.
I was a couple months into the show, and this guy, I get a message. After I'd done a show, I get a message next day, and guy says, "I was in my car last night," and he was in Arizona, so he was different time zone, a couple hours behind. He says, "I was in my car last night, and I had decided to kill myself. I had the gun in the car with me. I had already left a note. I have a wife and I have 2 kids. I went onto Facebook to post my last goodbye, And when I went onto Facebook to post my last goodbye, the first thing that popped up was your show. You were live on your show. And he goes, and you said my name.
Wow.
And you said good morning to me. And when you said my name, all of a sudden I felt seen. And so I went back home. I woke my wife up. I woke my kids up. I told her what I was about to do. I'm going to get help. Thank you for seeing me. Fast forward, now it's been 4 years. They've had 2 more kids. He's doing great. His business is awesome. Marriage is amazing. And so there's so much power in a name, man, just being able to say somebody's name. And I'm a simple guy, right? So I look at how I used to be and the result, and I look at how I am now and the result. And I like this result a lot better.
I think so. It looks good on you.
I'm going to keep saying people's names,
Yeah.
and there's something to it. I don't know exactly how the universe works. I know how it's worked for me. And when I take the time to make people feel seen, heard, and significant, I am rewarded tenfold.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was amazing,
man.
amazing story. There was one time not too long ago, you probably do it from time to time, but at the end, right after Facebook and you get back into Clubhouse, where questions and thoughts and etc. At the very end, I mean, I may have heard it more than once, but one time particularly, you said, it was over. You were ready to hand it off, right? And you said, and there's somebody else out there that needs to say something. That was like freaking just so powerful. You have such a humble and kind spirit. Some of the things you've accomplished and even the way you say them is with humility and perseverance and gratitude. Cause I know your gratitude is extremely important.
Yeah.
And is this something that you've just learned? I mean, you have obviously evolved. This doesn't happen overnight. And that's what the message you share with people, man. If you want it, doesn't make any difference where you're at. Just go after it. Step outside your comfort zone. Because for me, comfort zones are really dangerous. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love being comfortable. Okay. But if I don't step out, because there's only 2 times of fear, right? Fear of what you know and fear of what you don't know. And some people are so accustomed because they're so comfortable, even the consequences are dire, but they know what the consequences are versus walking through something they haven't walked through before. But I found, and listening to you and your experience and a lot of other people, that's where life really is at the edge. That's where you meet people like you. Say, hey, I love you. I like what you're doing. Let me introduce you to that person. Let me introduce you to this person. You know what? You can do this. I love you. I have faith in you. I believe you can. That's the Glenn Lundy that I know that I think everybody else does. And we wanted everybody in our circle that doesn't know you to know that part about you too.
I appreciate that, man.
That's
I definitely appreciate that.
Wow. Charity?
Sure. I have so many. It's like, which
There's
one
a lot,
should I
but
pick?
we never get through them all either. Let me tell you.
No, but
We'll go fast. You ready? We're gonna go. This is the speed round now. All right,
Yeah.
everybody knows this now.
No.
So now we're gonna go speed round by pow, 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 pow.
And even some of these are really simple questions, but I think they might be more complicated than I initially anticipated. But how about this one? If you were to go back to the beginning and do everything in your life over again, would you do it all the same or would you change anything?
Yeah, regretfully, it would suck, but I would do it all the same. Because my being homeless has allowed me to connect with homeless people all around the world. Me being in and out of jail 17 times has allowed me to connect with people that have been in and out of jail. Me being broke has allowed me to connect with broke people. Me having a little money allows me to connect with people that have a little bit of money. And so every experience that I thankfully endured has now been the key to someone else's lock, right? I can unlock that connection through those stories that I had to experience. So even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to be who I am today without those experiences. I don't recommend them for anyone else, but that was the journey that God had allotted for me.
Yeah.
Great answer.
It is. Yeah.
How do you see yourself? You know, you've had a really explosive trajectory so far. What do the next 5-10 years look like for you?
Oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing.
Oh, I know. I can't even wait to hear what's fixing to come out of your mouth now. Come on, Glenn Lundy, #1 speaker in the world. Bring it.
Golly, man. You know, we're just now, I feel like in the last probably 90 days, I finally figured out like what the heck I'm doing, you know? And now that we've got a bead on kind of what we're doing here, and I have an amazing team of people around me, right? The first 4 years, 3.5 years after I left the dealership, it was kind of me, my assistant helping me, and my guy Brandon. We were just like winging it. But now we have a team of amazing superhumans, and we actually have some clear paths. So we want to grow 800% Elite Automotive Club over the next 3 to 5 years, have it be at least the most known, hopefully the most liked and known, but the most known brand in all of automotive is the target. And I want to exit. I want to sell the company at 50 years old. I'd like to sell this company on the automotive side and then expand 800%. Because really 800% has just become a lifestyle. I've got the tattoo right there.
Yeah,
I love it. I remember when you got that too. Yeah.
And we'd like to expand outside of the automotive world into the world of small business and help 34 million small business owners around the world be able to grow and scale as well. And then at 61 years old, I need to, my target is to be a billionaire at 61 years old. And the only reason that target's there is, oh, did I lose my mic?
No, you're there.
Nope, you're all right.
Well, that was weird. The only reason that target's really there is because Grant Cardone became a billionaire at 62, and he's been a big he's been a mentor of mine for a lot of years, and it's not out of competition that I want to reach billionaire status at 61 and say I did it faster. It's to honor him. Like, I appreciate what the guy's done. He's inspired me to do so much. Incredible. And the best way that you can honor a mentor or a coach is to reach a higher level faster, right? Oh yeah. And so those are kind of some of our big goals. #1 name in automotive, and then to build out into the small business world and reach some epic levels by the time I'm 61.
And I think you will. And there's something that recently happened that is going to accelerate that. And you talked about time compression, and that you now have a jet as well.
I do.
So instead of spending all day to get to one event, you can do multiple events and still be home for dinner. Did I get that right, Glenn Lundy?
You absolutely got that right. And that's the jet is a time machine. That's exactly what it is. And I needed that time machine. You know, there was one trip where I hit 5 states over a period of 9 days, and I was actually only on stage or in front of a person 8 hours total out of 9 days.
Wow.
But I was away from my family for 9 days because I was following the travel plans of, commercial airlines and so on and so forth. And so that sparked me to go on a journey. I'm like, we got to figure this out. How do we get a jet? And 10 months later, the opportunity came up. And so, just a few weeks ago, man, we bought our first little baby jet, and it's freaking fantastic.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that Friday morning when you and your wife, who very seldom travels with you for a lot of those reasons, but that you were on your maiden flight that Friday, and we had Jessica had reached out to us because we had you on that morning. I figured, I don't know if this is going to be happening, Plus you had you had this, all the speaking stuff that you were doing, getting ready for that. And you're just a busy man. I can't tell you how humbled and honored that we actually are to have you on here and what that means. Before we end this, are you getting most 800% Elite is mostly, strictly for owners and general managers. Are you getting off into other segments of the dealership, like fixed operations and things like that too?
Yeah, we sure are. As a matter of fact, we just had our product lineup meeting this morning on those particular things. So 800% Elite is going to be our premier level, basically salesperson type level training. Sure. And then we have 800% Elite leadership, which is going to be our management and leadership training portion of what we do. And then, of course, we have 800% Elite Auto Club, which is our owners and general managers. So we are unveiling those products here probably this week, as a matter of fact. And we're hoping that that also starts to branch us a little bit into other worlds, because sales training is sales training and leadership training is leadership training. It doesn't matter whether it's automotive or not. So it gives us an opportunity to serve more people. So yeah, man, we're expanding those things as we speak. Now that I have a team. Before I didn't have a team. Now I have a team, and my team, they're all experts too. So it allows us to be able to serve more people.
Well, you got some big plans for 2023 and beyond. And
yes, sir.
I have no doubts that whatever they are, all you got to do is keep showing up and pouring into people. And it's like people, I've been in recovery for a little over 28 years now. And I still go to meetings. And I work with a lot of people in recovery too. And it's a shame, unfortunately, to the level that the disease, had me. Most people, don't really get it. They're not willing to really do what's necessary to actually, and knowing, first of all, that drugs and alcohol were never my problem. They were symptoms. The problem was here, mostly here, and I had to learn to think differently, because I brought up thinking anything and everything I could. There's two kinds of people, dream makers and dream takers. And I was a taker, and it just didn't work. And I had a similar story, but I know we're really at the end here. Charity.
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you not only for coming on the show, but I've gotten to speak with you sort of one-on-one, face-to-face now.
I know, it's exciting,
really appreciate that conversation. Yeah, it's really wonderful getting to know you a little bit.
Well, thank you. Feelings mutual.
Oh, good. So at the end of every show, we could go on for a very long time, but we have a time limit. So is there anything that you would like to share that we missed? Or, I noticed that you're on a lot of different shows and podcasts, and I'm sure you get the same questions over and over, which made it difficult for me to come up with maybe some newer questions. But in case we missed anything and you'd like to share it to our audience, I'd like you to take a few minutes to do that now.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. And you guys' questions are great and magnificent. And I think the conversations have been phenomenal. And I've been on a lot of podcasts, and they normally don't fly this fast. So this one's been awesome. The time has flown, and that's how I know it's it's been a great experience. But as far as anything else, I just challenge everyone out there to really take a good hard look at yourself and reach as far as you can reach. Like, feel free to use your imagination and to dream, right? We are children of God is what we are, the God of the universe. And I believe when it says God made us in his image, I believe that means God made us with the ability to create, which is God is the creator, right?
That's right.
And so us being in his image, we have the ability to create. And that's a powerful place. Once you grasp that, when you really grab on and say, okay, I'm a creator, I'm not a consumer, I'm not the receiver, I'm not anything on the back end, I'm the creator, the catalyst, right? When you can really get your hands around that, man, the world is your oyster. What an amazing time to be alive. Are you kidding me? It's an amazing time to be alive. And so just want to challenge everyone, reach real big, do the hard work on the inside that you need to do, and believe in yourself, because we all bring something really special to the table, and we're better when we all tap into that.
Agreed.
Well said. Thank you very much. Everybody, another extremely powerful episode of WTF. And for those that you don't know, it's What the Fixed Ops, Mr. Glenn Lundy. Listen, hey, like us, this is going to be coming out shortly. We want you to watch it. We want you to like it, share it, comment on it, find him, because he's everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Clubhouse. If you want to know more and you don't know how to get there, just reach out to Cherry and I will make sure that we connect you, because listen, I'm on there every morning at 4:30. I don't know what your excuse is. I don't know what it is that you want, but whatever you want, it's out there for the getting. Okay. As long as other people benefit, and you want to find out more about this amazing man and his journey, the last, 4, 5, 6 years and where he's going, Well, why don't you check them out and find out and let some of that life get breathed into you as well. Glenn Lundy, thank you so much, sir.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you both. You guys are awesome.
Appreciate it.